Hi everyone. I wanted to make a video today to talk a bit about what should and shouldn't be said to someone who suffers from bad depression. Because mental illness tends not to be talked about very much, and so it's pretty understandable that people who don't suffer from it tend to kind of say the wrong thing from time to time and don't really know what to do. And I've seen a few of these lists sort of floating around, but I don't know if they're intended this way, but they can come off as kind of antagonistic or aggressive. Like, there'll be a big list of, this is what I suffer, and these are all the things that, the ways I should be treated. And if you don't do this, then you're a bad person. Because I don't think that's necessarily the case. I feel like when people say the wrong thing, it's not out of malice or because they're trying to be dismissive. It's because they just genuinely don't know what to say and they're trying to help and they're just making a mess of it. And so I wanted to create something that was a bit more positive in outlook, with just kind of hopefully friendly guidelines of how to go about it. Just because I think people genuinely do want to help if they've got a loved one who is depressed. Brief disclaimer, I was diagnosed about 18 months ago as having bipolar depression. I'm in therapy at the moment and they finally got my medication right, so that's my situation, and I can only really talk about it from that point of view. I have no experience with schizophrenia or intense social anxiety, so if there's anything that I miss out, I apologise. I can only, talk from the perspective of someone who is bipolar. So yeah, let's start off with things to not say to someone who is going through a depressive episode. Firstly is, oh, you'll be fine, you'll be okay, I'm not concerned, you'll be okay, it's fine. While that might sound like you're being sort of reassuring, comforting, trying to build them up, a lot of the time especially in the UK, it takes a lot to sort of get properly diagnosed and find a doctor who will take you seriously, and to have that and then also have someone you love say those same things to you of, oh, it's fine, it comes across as being dismissive, even though you probably don't mean it that way. It feels like you're saying, oh well, your problems are just trivial and I'm not worried about it, this doesn't concern me. That's how it comes across. So try not to say that. Try and take what they're going through seriously, because it is an actual illness. Another thing that depressed people hate is when people say, oh, have you tried X, Y, and Z? Like, oh, have you tried going out for a walk? Or, make sure you take regular exercise, just go out for a run, it's fine. Which can work if you're just feeling a bit down, and it can work as a preventative measure. I mean, I'm doing fine at the moment, as I said, and I like to, make sure I leave the house at least once a day. I go to the gym, I eat healthily, and, I do these things because even though I'm fine now, I want to stay that way. And so I want to do everything I can to help that process. If you are going through a depressive episode, sometimes you can't even bring yourself to get out of bed. It's that bad. And like, to say, oh, just go to the gym, it's like, no, the thought of leaving the house is just so horrible, you can't cope with it. And so yeah, yeah, that's just not helpful. And again, it's kind of sounds like you're being a bit dismissive by saying, oh, it can be fixed by just eating healthily. It's like, well, no, it can't, because actual depression is a real illness and it can't really be fixed that easily, unfortunately. I wish it could. That would be great. I would have to take a lot less medication, which would be really nice. Another thing is, unless you suffer from depression yourself, don't say, oh, I know exactly how you feel, because you probably don't, unless you have had depression at some point. it's not just like having a bad day or feeling sad about something. It's like there is something that has taken you over and has just made you so intensely miserable that you will do anything to get away from it. Even, you kind of like daydream about dying and you just want to sleep all the time. I would describe it as, imagine you have to share a house with a serial killer, and sometimes you get along fine and they're okay, but sometimes they will try and kill you, and then you have to try and avoid being killed. And that's what it's like, except it's happening in your own head. It's like something in your head wants you dead and will go to pretty much any means to make that happen, and you are just struggling against that constantly. And it's just like, even breathing is painful and it's just horrible. That's how it feels. And unless you have had depression, you don't, you don't know how it feels. And even though you're trying to be sympathetic and supportive, it's sort of, it's making them think, oh well, you don't understand, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore, I can't talk to anyone about this. The thing that I found that people hate the most is when people say, oh, cheer up, you'll be all right, it's not that bad, nothing, you were fine the other day, nothing bad has happened in the meantime, why can't you just, get over it? Again, I can understand why people would say that, but it's a bit like telling someone in the middle of having an asthma attack to kind of just breathe normally. You were doing it fine 10 minutes ago, what's the big problem now? It doesn't work that way. It's not that easy. It's virtually impossible to pull yourself out of it. You've just got to ride it out and hope you survive. Moving on to more positive things, things you actually can do and say that will be helpful. The first thing is probably one of the hardest, and it's to just listen. And it can be hard because personally, I know that I am fucking boring when I'm depressed. I go on and on and on about the same miserable things, and it's really depressing to listen to me, and I can hear myself droning on, and I think, oh my God, just shut up. And, I can imagine how awful. I've got so much gratitude for the people who stuck by me while I was depressed and put up with me until I, pulled out of it and went through a better phase, and then put up with me again when I was depressed again. I'm really grateful for that, because it's really hard, but at the same time, I am so thankful. It was just so helpful to have someone who was just there to listen to me, and it really helped just talk some of these things through, and just feeling like, even though you hate yourself more than you thought it was possible to hate anything, there is still someone there who cares enough to be with you, even now, even though you are the most disgusting thing that has ever existed. That person doesn't think so. It really does mean a lot. Also, try not to get angry with anything that the person might say, because I know when I'm depressed, I've said some things that I really didn't mean, things that are really quite shocking, that I've done a lot of apologising for things that I've said, because I know this is such a cliche, but it's not me, it's the illness. And I hate that, because it sounds like I'm just, not taking responsibility, but it's sadly true. So just, if they say something that you find upsetting, just say, okay, I'm just going to put that to one side and let go of it for now. And then maybe when they're doing better, say, you know what, you were an arsehole the other day, and then they'll probably apologise and it will be fine. Another thing you can do is to take care of the person physically. When I'm depressed, I tend to lose quite a bit of weight, and not because, I think, oh, I want to starve myself and be thin. It's because just the thought of going into the kitchen and getting food is exhausting in itself. And so I just don't eat, because I just don't have the energy, and I don't go out of the house. it's not good. So if you can be there for the person and maybe get them meals, maybe, you know, make sure that they get up and get dressed and shower, just, you know, maybe just sit with them and watch a film or something, just take care of them, make sure that they're okay physically, because I mean, I can remember just, you know, going out to the shops or having to go to a meeting with my PhD supervisor, coming in, closing the door, lying down on the floor in my hallway and falling asleep, because just the act of trying to be a regular person for an hour was just so exhausting. And yeah, any help you can give them with that would be fantastic. One thing you can do that would be even more proactive if you really want to, you know, do something bigger, is to take them to the doctor. If they already have a doctor and they're diagnosed, then, you know, make them an appointment with their doctor and make sure that they go. If they don't, you can go on the internet and find out on, you know, there are various forums where you can find out where there are good mental health doctors in your area. Maybe make them an appointment with that doctor, take them to the doctor, even offer to go in with them if they need you to. Yeah, make sure that they've got the right medical help to get them through this and help them survive. Yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment. I've probably missed things out, but yeah, I hope that people have found this useful. And as I said, I really do have a lot of respect for people who stick by their loved ones who suffer from depression. Because as horrible as it is to go through, I can imagine that it's also really horrible to watch someone that you love going through it and feeling so completely helpless and cut off and wanting to do something for them and not knowing what to do. Yeah, I can really understand that. So yeah, I hope people have found this useful, and yes, let me know what you think.